We have no.
We need a button.
We don't have a button for our intro.
We need a turtle button.
Yeah, turtle cast. The didgeridoo. I just know the didgeridoo. That didgeridoo catches your attention, though.
Oh, it does. Yeah, I love the didgeridoo.
Yeah, it's super cool.
It brings you back to the primordial.
Yeah, and you know what I like about that? Everybody's going to pay attention to it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I instantly.
Because I'll tone out like any other song, or
yeah.
if I'm like in a store and I hear like the beeping of the registers, I'll tone that out.
Well, I think it also is something that the vibrational part where it resonates,
and that's what we want to do. All of our messages need to resonate with our listeners.
Yeah, exactly. The didgeridoo is just it's just there. It just is. There is no the sound that you're creating that's coming out of it doesn't have an intensity that has an agenda behind it.
No, there's no agenda. It's actually it's the oldest wind instrument.
Yeah.
And the Aboriginals, down in Australia before, I don't know if there's any left. The majority of them got wiped out.
Right.
But imagine just hanging around like Uluru, that big like red rock.
Yes.
And the guy's got like a huge didge like on his toe. Something about that just like gives me like goosebumps.
Yeah, no, and I think it's important because when we look at data and we look at the historical.
I was just going to make that jump, but go ahead. You do it. I'm proud of you.
I want to look at something from where you're from. And people get and you had even said that to me, don't mix it. But we're going to be talking about today about data. Provenance.
Yeah.
Provenance.
Not Providence, Rhode Island.
Like dance.
Provenance.
Like
yeah.
Provenance.
Provenance. There's no D.
Oh, there's no D?
Yeah, D free.
Okay. D free. This is a D free zone.
This is D free. Rated R, but D free.
Yes. There'll be no ladies in the house.
To use your fantastic metaphor, is that if we're looking at the lineage of our past on a wind instrument, right? The provenance, the original historical lineage, the source of where all of our musical expression and evolution of music has come from the most basic wind instrument. What did we do? We took a piece of wood. So this is going to be fun. I like this. We took a big branch.
Right.
Okay. And we're like, oh, this is cool. So what do we do with this? We're Aboriginal, so we're like, let's bury it in the ground. Obviously, termites, right? So they're chewing through the center of it. And, you bore a nice hole right down the center of what your soon to be didge.
But you're allowing something else to do that for you.
You're allowing, see, we're getting there. You're allowing something else to handle that for you, right? So you've taken this asset.
You love this stuff.
The beginning of the lineage, right? And you put it into something safe.
Right.
I'm going to bury it in the ground. That's what people do. They bury their money, like a safe or whatever. I'm going to put that asset in the ground.
Right.
And I'm going to wait a little bit. And then when I'm ready for it, I'm going to take it back out. And then I'm going to do something with it. I know that I'm the owner of it. I put that ditch there.
Right.
But on the lineage of where it's going to start, all my musical journey is going to happen from here. Or if I choose to sell my ditch to some other person,
but the ownership comes from you taking that ability to be able to put that in there.
That's correct.
And then you are the only one that knows that it's there.
You're the only one that knows that it's there. And so that's...
Because identity is important when we talk about this.
Yeah, and it's your identity with the didgeridoo, but you also have the privacy of where you choose to bury it.
Yes, with
so you're going to know, like a dog burying a bone,
right?
You're going to know where to go, dig it back up when you're ready for it. So your data... So if you want to hold the provenance of it, and the provenance is saying who owns the true historical record, where does it, if we're going back in time,
right?
Where does it all begin? And what we're saying is that if we're going back in time, that everything begins with you. It doesn't begin with the company, right? You had to interact with the company. And then you had to interact with their objects. And then you had to interact with their software systems. And then you had to interact with their web pages. And then from that, you're creating this little asset. So you're taking those pieces of you and you're burying it in all these different places, but you got to find the time to dig it back up. So in that provenance, you're like, okay, I'm ready for it now. It's ready to go. I'm going to take it back. The asset's ready. I'm going to curate it myself. And I know that in its own lineage, I'm the true owner of this. And now from there, I can source that. I can send that source information and I can give it to the person who I want to give it to, or I can play that music to the people I want to play it with when I choose to do so.
And that's why the historical ledger is so important. When we look at ledgers.
Yeah, it's people were writing.
And that can't be manipulated.
No, and you can't
especially
manipulate
on the
that.
Tartle.
Yeah, even on Tartle, right? Because we're using a blockchain ledger.
Right.
So you're going back in time in the historical record and you're looking at the provenance of it. And it's a very transparent provenance.
Right.
Because it's showing, this is the direct lineage of where this came from and where it went. and for how much it went for.
And
who's the true owner of it.
Right. And each musical instrument always has the creator or the master. There's always something that's left behind from that that shows instantly to someone with a trained eye, instantly say, this person created this.
Yeah, they're going to know a distinct difference. They don't even have to hear it, but if you're looking at the notes on something, this is clearly a Beethoven symphony. Right? This is clearly a Tchaikovsky.
Right.
So
it's clearly Jason Rigby.
It's clearly a Jason Rigby. Right. This is clearly, a habitual piece of data that relates to, Alexander.
Right.
Oh, wait a minute. And now let's go back in time. Oh yeah, the problem is this does relate to him. This does come from him. He is the true owner of it. And so what we're saying is, all these companies are like, hey, let's go back in the lineage and let's absolutely identify that this is the true owner. Well, great. Well, now that you've done that, now you got to give them their ownership of it. And by doing that, you need to pay them for that information. Good for you that you verified it. Now you're going to do whatever you want with it. But really, build the fairness back into your models and say, okay, if we're going to be collecting this data and we know that it's coming from a true identity, the people should be compensated properly for it.
Well, it's like if you take, what's the famous violin? The guy that made all those famous violins. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. But we should have stuck with the museum was in. I saw one. Yeah. It's not Vitali. People are going to be yelling at us right now.
Yeah, they're screaming. When it's almost like what's that
Hold
game?
On.
What's that game?
Let me look it up.
Play?
I have a phone with notes on it.
What's like not pictogram? I can't even remember the damn word, whatever it is. You know what I'm talking about? Pictionary?
Yes.
And people are like screaming, like you know what it is, but you can't say anything. It's like I feel like it's that aspect of it.
Yeah, it's Antonio Strada.
Yeah, Strada. Yeah, Stradivari. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, very expensive violins.
Yeah, but it's that the reason
there's an identity to it.
Yes,
but there's a provenance to it, and it needs to be recognized. And now we're only starting to recognize it. Great. Now we've recognized it. Now give them the people their due coin for whatever it might be.
But people don't realize this. As expensive as that violin may be, is as expensive as your data is because it is you and only you.
Yeah, and you can't be hypocritical where I'm going to respect the provenance of it, but I'm not going to respect the individual sovereignty over it.
Yes.
They are the creator of it. Great, you've identified it, but now that you've identified it, you have to fill the other 50%, and you have to recognize that the person or the entity that created that, the DIGs, the data packet, whatever it might be, they are the sovereign owner of it.
So why don't these large data companies, because they're collecting data, whether it be, social media or whatever, we're in a big, huge thing with TikTok right now, being a Chinese company. And then, even the president's come up and said, somebody's got to buy it. Microsoft's looking at them and all that. So why don't these large companies come out and say, I recognize that this is you. I recognize that this is, there's something, you've been giving me this data on my app or however it may be, and I owe you something back. Why don't they have that social responsibility to say, I owe you something back?
Because it's not in their business model. They are not beholden to you. They're beholden to their shareholders or stockholders. Right. So when you look at a model, like I'm going to use our model at Turtle because it's a prime example.
Right.
Turtle is now officially recognized by the state of Delaware as a public benefit corporation. We're solely in the business of giving back and helping society. And then the B Corporation label that you see at everything in Whole Foods, we've applied for that also. So our model is designed to make sure that we give people, whatever their due course is, right? Or due cause, whatever it might be, that whatever that payment is required, because that's what we're designed to do. We're designed to flourish as a system, a marketplace that benefits all parties at the same time, rather than just be a resource hoarding one that all these typical companies are. And they're like, when's the last time they're going to shell you out $1? If there's an issue with your car, do you think they really want to do a recall? That costs them a ton of money.
Yes.
But they have to do it.
But there's a reason only why. Yes,
the only reason they did it is because laws were written in blood. It was only until they ignored it for so long and so many people were getting hurt that they're like, crap. What happened to Toyota or Ford by putting bad tires on this car, this Explorer? We got to make sure we don't do the same thing at us.
But it's the only reason that they're willing to do that is because they're looking at risk factors. They're looking at costs for.
They're not looking at it for good.
But we have large companies that are out there right now where they may be looking at the risk factor. And there's like, they signed this privacy agreement. This is their historical data. They actually own this.
Are you serious, buddy? Go ahead, you read all this convoluted.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yes.
It's convoluted. And then you go through it and then you're like, oh, well, he signed it. Did you understand everything you read?
Click.
Yeah. How many people in the United States have a JD?
Right.
Come on. It's like nonsensical. You need to design things so they work with society at the point that society's at. We're not all evolved super geniuses, you know? Right. We're not just like incredible, just like legal savants here.
Right.
Don't be like that. And also understand that society's changing. If you don't adapt, your big old company that's been a resource hoarder, people are going to leave that. And they're going to channel their energy and their time into better options that better suit not only them, but everyone else they interact with.
I love that.
And people are more conscious of that.
So the data pomegranate.
Anything that starts with
all the seeds. Yeah.
Yeah.
Promadon.
Yeah, Promadon.
What was that movie? Prometheus. Yes,
good film.
That was an amazing
Well,
movie,
again, Prometheus, right? You're looking at the provenance of who actually created the human lineage in, a sci-fi format.
Right.
And cool.
They're going back to the creation.
They're going back to the creation itself and what beings were at the creation, because that's the provenance of our genetics.
Right. And
we want to go back to it. And there's something always interesting with, the human brain. It's like we want to know where we came from.
Right.
It's a thing we want to solve. So the most obvious evolutionary question that we're trying to answer, well, it has to go into data too, because this is just the digital aspect of our physical world. So everybody always wants to go back, well, where's the core of it? Well, it's much easier for us to solve over here because it didn't start billions and billions of years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So if it didn't, recognize that and be fair, look at naturally how things should work, put some balance into your system, respect the provenance, and understand that the person owns it. It's their creativity. It's their sovereignty over it. And if you want it, pay them for it.
Exactly. 100%. Yeah. That's awesome.
Thanks, Jason.
Yes.